Hey Atlanta, say hello to Small Business Help from Apple. That's right, we're here to make starting and running your business simpler. From helping you choose the right devices to setting them up hassle-free, we can help you build your business in no time. Speak to a business expert and get the help you need at no cost whatsoever. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/smallbusiness or visit an Apple store to learn more.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
There's so many things in this which I could think, because you were talking about kind of the funniest gag in the movie earlier, and I was just like trying to think through it. I was basically, anything with the dog is hilarious. Like the dog, pig, loaf of bread, like anything with that does so funny.
I just really empathised with a lot of things she was saying about, like, your humans are terrible, like, you're crap at everything and you're not worth saving. And I was like, yeah, go for it. Destroy us. We deserve it.
But I think there's tons to keep you invested emotionally. There's loads of funnies and loads of inventive animation to keep your eyes on.
Hello everyone, welcome to Flixwatcher. Today we are joined by Chris.
Hello.
Liam.
Hello.
And as always, Kobe.
Hey.
And we're here today to talk about The Mitchells versus The Machines. Thank you as always to the mighty people for the mighty tunes, and thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram
at FlixWatcher. Hello film fans, welcome to Flixwatcher podcast. Joining us remotely today we have Chris and Liam. If you could please say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hello, I'm Liam H Dempsey. I am one of the three hosts of Spocklight, the Star Trek podcast from a non-Trekkie perspective. We look at the Star Trek universe from a kind of outsider lens, but we also, for all you film fans out there, do Spocklight at the movies, where we examine a film featuring a member of Star Trek alumni either in front or behind the camera, which throws up some really interesting movies, like Three Men and a Baby, directed by Spock himself, Leonard Nimoy.
Hold on. Was that
I always forget about that.
Yeah. That's
but when it comes up in the credit, you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's what started that thread of the podcast, the Three Men and a Baby. And more recently, things like Green Room, featuring the dearly departed Anton Yelchin, which we did with Chris Stewart from Empire Magazine. We also do
Green Room's also got your man
Picard.
It has. Yeah. It's got Patrick Stewart as the villain, and he is amazing in that film as the villain as well. So that is a hugely recommended film and a hugely recommended episode as well. So yeah, lots of stuff going on over there.
And Chris, who are you?
I'm Chris Johnston. I'm a Pisces, in case anyone wondered. I'm the host of retro film podcast Easy Riders Raging Podcasts. We talk about classic cinema. We're currently doing our third series, which is all about 50s films, and we've done quite a few cartoons as well. We're doing a lot of Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes stuff. I also host a Spielberg-based film podcast called The Spielberg Pod, where we talk about all things directed and produced by Steven X. Spielberg.
I mean, he's the GOAT, isn't he, Spielberg?
Hard to beat.
Is he still?
Yeah.
Yeah, West Side Story, mate. Come on.
I haven't seen it.
I'll sort it out, Cobes.
It's on Disney Plus. My my weight of stuff I haven't watched, TV and video, is like super high at the moment. And I still haven't watched the original West Side Story, and I want to watch that before watching the Steven Spielberg one.
You'd never make it as a Jet, Kobe.
Probably not. I've just started watching Euphoria because that's going to go off Now TV in 21 days.
Oh yeah, I've just finished season 1.
Same here, actually. I did that a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Oh, let's talk about Euphoria instead.
Those kids are fucked up.
Now we have to talk about Mitchell's versus the Machine, which is Chris's choice. Chris, why did you choose it? And then I'm going to get the timer ready.
This was easily one of my favourite films of 2021. And so I was quite keen to rewatch it. It was a very enjoyable film the first time round. And I hoped it would be, no spoilers, I hoped it was going to be for the second watch. And I like the idea that perhaps doing this podcast could open the door to some people watching the film who hadn't seen the film, because basically last year I recommended this to everyone I could, because I thought this is...
You like showing the wealth.
Yeah,
that's
it's a film for everyone, and I like the idea that more people may watch it off the back of this. So great family film, and it's got... and I thought it's really important that it's got like a queer lead, and its root, especially being a family film. I like, because representation is really important, and putting that in a family film is doubly important.
I'd like to touch on that in the discussion, but let's go to the synopsis, and your timer starts now. Sure.
Film was directed by Mike Rianda and Jeff Rowe, produced by Chris Lord and his mate Something Miller. It's a 2021 animation which sees an oddball family who, while they're dropping off their daughter at film school, find themselves in the robot apocalypse, and they become humanity's last hope. Little Miss Sunshine meets Mad Max.
In a way, I guess. Helen, this is the first time you watched this.
It was.
Even though many people have told you about this, what stopped you watching it?
I just was like, didn't really appeal to me. And also I think maybe the image didn't really give it away. The image doesn't really say like Facebook becomes self-aware, tries to take over the world, lesbian girl with really funny dog go on a road trip and save the world.
I mean, what kind of image could have portrayed that? I don't know. You mean the main kind of poster image?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like the title much either. It was a bit like, eh.
Did you think it was EastEnders spin-off?
Phil and Peggy.
Phil and Peggy and Grant
getting aggy at each other.
I mean, I'd like to see them take on the robot apocalypse, I'll be honest.
They'd fail. Did you like it generally?
There's a lot that I did like about it. I didn't like it as much as I think you guys did. And I think that's more... I do like animation, but I'm not like big into it. And I really loved like Katie. I thought she was brilliant and kind of wild. And I really liked the kind of like the weird meme culture. But at the same time, I felt that it was a lot of stuff all the time. And I ended up actually watching it in 2 goes because I found it was just a bit too much and a bit long. And there was like loads of really nice, fun stuff. But then there was also some kind of like a little bit tired, dysfunctional family things. And I got a bit annoyed when there's the bit in it where we kind of find out like her dad had to give up his like dream life to like be a father. And I thought that was a bit like unfair on her because she then kind of apologizes and sort of says, you know, sorry for all the things. But her dad never really apologizes for not being interested in her things in her life. And I thought for such a film that kind of focuses... He just like sign up to her YouTube, whereas I don't think they quite accepted the fact that she was becoming an adult and kind of could have a separate life that didn't have to be there. So I was a little bit like, for a film that seemed quite sort of forward thinking in terms of like family films, it kind of like went back to like traditional kind of family tropes a little bit quickly to tie things up in the end, which I thought was a little bit of a shame. But like I thought the dog was like super funny.
Well, the dad did need another bloke to tell him that his daughter's films were good for him to be convinced that they were worthwhile. So maybe you are onto something, Helen.
What are your thoughts on Liam then?
I like it. I think I maybe don't love it as much as Chris or a lot of other people seem to love it. I think it's very, very good. Like, definitely it's, glowing report at the end of the day. Like, I think it's a really, really strong animated film. I just think that a lot of people seem to really love this movie. I don't love it. I just think it's a really, really good, inventive, animated, very funny comedy.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a great film. I always get annoyed at the dad for cancelling her tickets and doing that road trip. That for me, that's just like, because I had so much fun in that Freshers Week. Every Freshers Week at university, and that's where you do make those long lasting friendships with people who I was still in touch with, and I felt so gutted for her.
She'd have missed Timmy Mallet.
Was Timmy Mallet headlining your Freshers Week?
He did one of the
everyone's Freshers Week, didn't he?
We had Ash and Fun Loving Criminals.
Wow.
So don't know what kind of clown pot schools you went to. But I think that's how much I was kind of engaged in it, because I was like, oh no, you've ruined her first week at university when she's supposed to be. Like, she's been looking forward to getting up to the people that's her people, she's called them, and you get excited for her, and then the dad just goes, no, we're going to do this horrific drive, and along the way they do stupid things like the donkey ride, which would have made it more. So I was really, really on her side all the way through, and I think this is me just saying I was caught up in the family drama. I do think it was a bit long. It is a bit long. For this rewatch again, I was like, 2 hours, really? And there's some parts which I feel aren't as good as others. But Katie's mum, when she becomes like uber mum and starts slicing through those black stormtrooper robots, is one of the best things ever. And when she comes out through the clouds, right, and towards Katie and her dad, and all the black robots like fearing her. Was it the purple ones come together or something like that? She says. I think it's just absolute dynamite.
She's a very, very good on-screen mum. I think she's great.
Absolutely.
Well, Maya Rudolph's always good whenever you see her in anything, basically.
She's not in enough stuff.
True.
And Paul Thomas Anderson should use her in his films.
She's a really good voice actor because she's one of the hormone monsters in Big Mouth as well, isn't she?
Yeah, she's amazing in Big Mouth.
She's very funny. She's always a bubble bath. She's amazing in that. I agree. I was on the daughter's side as well, because I actually found the daughter very relatable as someone who went to film school. Like, I did a film production degree, and I totally got her thing of finding her people, because literally the film courses I learned, both the film courses at A level and at degree level, is really where I met kind of my best friends for life, really, because it's that thing of discovering the people who totally vibe with the same things that you're into, everything like that, and how kind of special feeling that is. And also that thing of how her life has been completely wrapped up and obsessed with film and filmmaking up to that point, and kind of just getting a camera and just making stuff. I remember that time in my life and the kind of mad productivity you have in your creativity at that time, and I found that very, very relatable in the film. So I was completely on side with her.
Also, I thought her dad was a bit I can't remember what the word is, the fact that he actually made videos himself of them as a family. So he must have been able to relate it even in a small way.
Well, do you think that was a comment on the generations in terms of he's using a camcorder, more old school kind of technology, and she's using kind of her phone and kind of computers and stuff like that? Is that meant to show the differences kind of thing in terms of their generations?
But the point is, it's still because when he relaxes, he watches those videos, and when Katie relaxes, she's watching her videos and doing her things. It's still the same thing. I grew up making videos on camcorder and haven't made so many since I've had a smartphone and stuff. But it's it's the same thing. It's the same kind of creativity.
Well, it's good. They make the point in the film that her and her dad, the mum says that you and your dad are very similar. Yeah. And that they that's another way of illustrating how they are similar. But I just don't think he makes the leap you've made. It's there, but it just misses him by that. She's like, her films are like your films. He just doesn't do the maths.
Yeah. I think it's funny we're talking about it now, and it's kind of poking holes in the character, because I think that he does come across as older than really his character possibly could be at this time. If you think about the fact that this film came out last year, and his kid's just going off to college, like really in reality this guy's going to be in his early 40s at the most, really, probably. And literally, if you think about that, it's like, would he really be that? Because it's like he's technophobe to the point of literally he cannot operate any kind of technical device. Yeah
I mean, it's a bit of a stretch. I get that. And I think, because I know people who literally have no idea like how to use Facebook, but they know how to go and like, they know how to use their smartphone properly and know how to like go to YouTube and like type words in. So it was a bit of a stretch, but that's obviously leans into his character a bit more. And I thought, I mean, one thing you talked about, Chris, at the start, was that it's an LGBT lead in Katie. And I'd like to, you can tell there's love there, because there was that never seemed, it didn't present itself to have been a problem in the past. At least there was nothing brought up about it. Almost to the extent I was kind of a bit annoyed they didn't talk about it so much in the film, because her brother, I thought, got a bit more of a love story than she did. And on second watch, I picked up more of the kind of threads of her being interested in potentially this Lady Jane, and I saw that she had a rainbow badge on her lapel. But I think it still wasn't. I think there could have been a bit more, like, But
I mean, at least that scene at the end with her mum, they do explicitly say it. Just because you see so many films where they're like, "Is Valkyrie gay?" Ooh, we're implying, but we don't want to say it because we don't want to offend China or the Middle East and stuff. And they do explicitly say in the film that she and like I said, it's not the world's biggest leap, but the fact that they do acknowledge it, and the fact it is a film that will be watched by kids. Yeah. And so, your conservative right might be like, oh shit, that's terrible. But you go, no, that's good. Kids should be exposed to all kinds of people, all races, all genders, or orientations. It should all be there for young audience to see, and see that it's just a normal thing.
From the first watch, I was like, she's gay.
Maybe it's just a bit over my head.
Yeah, like you say, they explicitly say it, Chris, in this and that. I think that's the difference, even though it's not a huge focus of the film. Like you say, we see so many. I mean, literally, we've just had, the reveal that Disney has kind of been trying to deliberately kind of keep their creatives from kind of featuring prominent kind of gay storylines and stuff like that. And we've really seen that in something like Luca. For an example, where it's just basically a complete gay analogy. But it just, when I saw that film, it just came across as completely cowardly to me, that they're not just going like they're gay. They can't say they're gay. It's not possible to say. Whereas here it's just, it's just like, yeah, here it is, going like, it's just said.
Maybe it's a good
just
thing that
another
they do say.
aspect of her character. It's not the sort of movie of the week, episode of the week, the like, the parents have got to get over their gay panic or bullying and stuff. It's just who she is.
I think it's more that her brother seems to have more of a love interest angle to it than she did. But I think in terms of everything else that you guys have said, that, well, first of all, I think it's great that it was mentioned explicitly, and almost is quite great that it's at the end. So the families who watch it as a family together, they can't escape and say, no, not for us. This film is too LGBT. And at the end, it's like dropped in there, and they're like, "No, we watched this film, and it was great." So this can happen. And also, it wasn't a part of it. It wasn't her character. It wasn't like all about her character being gay, which is a great thing as well. So I think it's just the kind of, her brother seemed to have a more clarified love story than she did. I think that's the bit that's, I think, slightly gets me the wrong way, but I
wasn't really any characters until she gets to uni to kind of do those, because one of the other things is that she's clearly like the town she's in is kind of a bit of a prison, in that no one gets her, in that no one understands her creativity, but also there are probably not many gay people there for her to kind of interact with. So this is why it's such a big thing for her to be leaving, and why it's so important to her, and where she can go and be herself, really, and not have to worry about what people think. And yeah, I mean, the love story between like him and the girl? Is it really a love story? Like, it's not really.
It's infatuation, though, isn't it? But it's that.
Yeah.
It was one of my favourite lines when he says to her, "I really want to talk about dinosaurs with you," and she says yes, and then he goes, "No, forget about it. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it." And he runs off and like falls into a ditch, and that I just remember that kind of feeling when you're like, I don't know, 10 years old, when you kind of like someone.
How old is he meant to be? Because he sounds like 50.
He's voiced by one of the directors.
It sounds like a very old child. And I couldn't work it out. I was like, is this kid like meant to be like 8 or is he meant to be like 16? Because I couldn't work it out.
I think he's more towards 8. Let's talk about the rest of the film. I mean, the voice cast is just generally really cool. Olivia Colman, I think, was great as Powell. I think anything she does is just brilliant, and she really leaned into it.
There's a bit in it where she keeps talking to the guy Mark, and when she's saying that, I'm like, well, it's because you're Sophie from Peep Show, aren't you? No, stop it, Mark.
She has got a great villain voice. She's very kind of funny without trying to be funny, like as a kind of villain voice. Like that bit when she starts bang on to her about how like you wouldn't just kind of like comparing what he's done with people putting their mum in like a home or something like that is really, really funny. She's great.
I love her. I think like, yeah, she's brilliant in it. And like with she's doing all the bits like where you like swiping with your dirty fingers and poke. And I just really empathized with a lot of things she was saying about like, your humans are terrible. Like you're crap at everything and you're not worth saving. And I was like, yeah, go for it. Destroy us. We deserve it.
Yeah, is there anything else, guys, you want to say before we go into the scores and keep on chatting, obviously?
I mean, it's just a very, very funny film, isn't it? At the end of the day, like there's so many things in this which I could think, because you were talking about kind of the funniest gag in the movie earlier, and I was just like trying to think through it. I was basically anything with the dog is hilarious. Like the dog pig loaf of bread, like anything with that does so funny.
I think that Deborah Bot 5000 and Eric, those two wayward robots, I thought they were great value.
Yes, yeah, they're very funny. Their kind of introduction where they're kind of first going wrong and they try and do that pretending to walk down the stairs trick to pretend they're other robots is really, really funny. Like and obviously the Furbies. The Furbies is just absolute genius.
I didn't have a Furby, so I don't think I got the full extent of it. But I think I just enjoyed. I knew generally what was going on. Were you a Furby kid, Liam?
No, I wasn't. I literally was a bit too old for Furbies by the time they came out. But I remember them coming out and it being a huge thing. And so I just think it's funny. Even if you don't, I think it's good enough that even if you weren't a big Furby person, you get it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, totally. My favorite point was one of my favorite bits was Linda, Katie's mum, when she falls into that massage chair. It's like, get me out. And then and the massage chair starts to vibrate and she's like, leave me alone. I thought that was great.
Yeah. And as much
you,
as
you want a massage chair, don't you?
I've got this like massage thing that comes over your shoulder, and that's actually really, really good. I don't think I want a whole massage chair though, because I think
they're
that's
amazing. Honestly, like you should get one. Yeah.
Well, I'll just get a massage chair.
I did think the film built on like, because obviously a couple of years ago, one of the best films from the last few years was Spider-Verse, which involved Lord and Miller quite a lot. And that film like had a real sort of freedom about it. And I do feel like this film builds on that and like gives them like a license to be as creative and as weird and as odd as they wanted. And I think that a lot of that builds off of, well, partly off like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which was an earlier Lord and Miller work. But Spider-Verse, I think, gave them a lot of license to be odd. Yeah,
oh, absolutely. I think one of the comments I made was, can Lord and Miller do any wrong? And start Cloudy, and you got the Jump Street films, Lego films, Spider-Verse, which is generally one of my top 10 films ever, which is strange for something so recent. And this, I think they've done an absolute belter in their career.
I find it fascinating that they have not directed a film in 8 years. Since 22 Jump Street. Yeah, just produced. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's clear that they have a heavy creative hand in these movies that they're producing, but they are essentially written and directed by other kind of people. It's just, I don't know whether they just got so burnt on Solo, which of course they were like halfway through making before being thrown off by Kathleen Kennedy.
I would have much preferred to see their version than the one that ended up.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Like, literally, I think that's got to be one of the great lost movies, hasn't it? Lord and Miller's Solo. I can't even, because they literally did get through, I think, halfway through making it or something like that. So I'd be fascinated to see if we'll ever see that footage, which I don't think we will. No. But I would be fascinated, because the actual Solo film by Ron Howard is like one of the most cookie cutter blockbusters of all time.
That's a making of you want to see, isn't it?
Yeah. I still think it's a film that didn't need to exist generally, but I would have watched the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And I would more likely have rewatched it than I can't see myself watching the Solo film as it stands, the Ron Howard one.
No.
As much as I like him as a director, I can't see myself watching it. So we head to the scores.
Sure.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Kobe from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
Welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. All of the scores are out of 5. You may have decimal places, and we'll start with you, please, Chris, with your recommendability.
I went for a solid 5 because, like I said, I think there's something for everyone in the film. Feels like an easy win, to be honest.
Liam?
Yeah, I'll go for 4.5 with this, to be honest. I think that, in terms of recommendability, I think there's the odd person I wouldn't recommend it to, in terms of, if you're just really dislike animation, maybe you're not going to get on with it, or perhaps kind of really kind of modern, very fast-paced comedy. But apart from that, I think it's a pretty winning kind of film. I think it's hard to take against this movie, really. So 4.5.
Helen?
I'm a little bit lower. I think it's a solid 4. I think if you really love kind of like the Lego movies and are really into that kind of like in your face, like everything's happening all at once, bam, 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 then this is right up your street. But I wonder kind of like how well it's going to age in like a couple of years, because it's very much memey and like now-y. Like if you don't use the internet, you may not get a lot of the kind of references and jokes in it. So I think there's a lot going in it, and it's kind of fun. I thought it was good, but I don't know who. You've seen it, and you'd probably be the person I'd recommend it to.
Well, me?
Yeah.
I'm going to go for 4.45 here. I think it's kind of weird with like Clouded with Chance Meatballs. I was like, no, that's not going to be any good. And watched it, I was like, oh, this is great. Lego Movie, I thought, that's not going to be any good. I watched it and it's great. 21 Jump Street, I was like, that's not going to be any good. And I was like, well, this is great. And I just need to I can understand why there's barriers that stop people doing things. I can, in the way I can understand barriers with like foreign language films. But sometimes I just think it's a bit of a chance to recommend it to people. But when they kind of get the hook, I was quite interested in what you're saying, Helen, about the name didn't work for you, the post didn't work for you, that something didn't quite make it interesting, even though that lots and lots of people saying, look, it's a great film. It still just didn't kind of fit for you as a thing like you should go out and watch ASAP. So I think it will be the same for a few other people. It wasn't like a stone cold, I should watch this, but only because lots of people said, yeah, it's an amazing film, I'll watch it. And that made me watch it. Repeat viewing score. Chris?
This is second time watch for me. I enjoyed it almost as much as first, so I'm going to give it a solid 4.
Liam?
So I'll give this a 3.4 for repeat viewing. This is my second time watching it. And I'd say, if anything, I'd say it improved slightly on a second watch. I think I liked it slightly more than the first time. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily see myself watching it loads of times, like some comedies that I really love. I definitely enjoyed watching it a second time, and I wouldn't begrudge watching it again at some point.
Helen?
I don't know a situation where I probably would watch it, but this is no fault against it. So 2.5 down the middle.
Yeah, I'm going for a 3. I don't think I'll watch it that often. I think it's great, but I think for 2 hours for an animated film, which is a comedy, and there's a lot going on there, I don't think it's going to be a super big draw to rewatch each time. Small screen score. Interesting one for Netflix only film. Let's go to you, Chris.
Yeah, seen it on small screen twice, and I thought it looked very good. I guess the only downside was there's so much detail and lots of the gags. I couldn't quite get it all. So I'm going to go 3.5.
Liam.
With small screen on this one, I'll go 4 because, like you say, it's a Netflix original film. So I'm not 100% sure if this was made for Netflix or whether this is one of the COVID ones where it was meant to be in cinemas and then went to Netflix. I think it might be. So I think it works perfectly well on small screen. However, I think it's a really, really nice animation. And if you remember, I saw Spider-Verse in the cinema, which obviously this shares a lot of DNA with animation-wise, and I think that looked pretty great on the big screen in terms of animation. I think this would do as well. Like if someone said you can go see the Mitchells vs. Machine on at the cinema, I'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds really cool. So yeah, I think a 4. You can watch it on TV, but I would definitely like to see it on the big screen.
Helen.
So yeah, it was originally to have like a proper cinema release, but in 2020. But yeah, it was sold to Sony sold the distribution to Netflix, so that's how it kind of ended up. I mean, I kind of think it's fine. I wouldn't have gone to the cinema to see it, and like parents with kids at home. It's 2 hours you can keep them entertained for. Just like stick them in front of that and. You've got 2 hours apiece. So interestingly, just throwing it out there, what do you think its chances are of winning at the Oscars? Because obviously it's up for Best Animated Feature. Do you think it's got a chance?
What's it up against, though?
Well, presumably it's up against Encanto, I would think.
It's up against Encanto. It's up against Flea. I can't remember the other two. It's
Raya and the Last Dragon and Luca.
So it's up against Flea and all the Disney Pixar films. I think it's got a decent chance. For me, it's Encanto would be the clear winner there, but I haven't seen Flea yet. So, and that's one film that everyone is talking loads about, and I'd like to see Flea.
I haven't seen Flea, but I've seen all of the others, and to be honest, yeah, I'd vote for Mitchells versus the Machines out of those. I think it's better than Raya and the Last Dragon, Encanto, or Luca.
How dare you?
I like Encanto. I like it. I think it's like a gorgeous animation with some great songs, but I think the story is all over the fucking place in Encanto. And that's the thing that lets it down for me slightly, whereas Mitchells vs. Machines is a winner on pretty much every level. So I think I would go for that.
And Flea is also up for Best Documentary as well, so they may feel that
and
they give
Best Foreign Feature as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's got a few chances. So I wonder whether they'll give kind of what we'd expect an animated film with possibly this. Who knows? But it's kind of like a wild race at the moment.
What was Chris's choice?
I'm trying to think of another one that I saw that had as much impact, so I think it's definitely worth a shout.
Small screen score there, Helen.
Oh yeah, sorry, 5.
5. I'm quite low on this one. I really would have preferred to see it on the big screen the first time. I think subsequent ones are great on the small screen. Conversely to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where I want to watch it every single time on the big screen. But this, I think, subsequent watches on the small screen would be great, but the first time would have been great. So I'm going to go for 3 here. And then engagement score, Chris.
4. I mean, it is a bit long, but I do think there's a lot in there to appreciate. So, I mean, it's on the right side of 2 hours.
Liam.
Yeah, I mean, engagement, I'd probably go for like 4.2. Like, I think that in terms of the length, I think it is a little bit too long. But that's mostly to do with it. I think it could probably get away with being this long. I just think the script is slightly oddly structured because they get to the kind of bad guy's base where, literally she gets him to say kind of the end game has begun or anything like that. And that's literally with an hour of the film left when that happens. And to me, I was just like, I did this the first time, I did it the second time, I looked at the time left on the film and I was like, what? what? There's an hour left of the film, but we're here. We're at the finale. How is there an hour left? And I think it's just poorly structured in terms of it just makes it so the second half of the film is just a third act. And that doesn't make any sense to me. This go back to kind of screenwriting, film production degree. That was just like, it just throws me off completely. And it's not. I think if they just sorted that structure, I think it'd be fine at the length it is, because there is enough gags and kind of plot and incident there to make it work. But it's just it doesn't slightly off. So that's what. So, but I think there's tons to keep you invested emotionally. There's loads of funnies and loads of inventive animation to keep your eyes on, so I still think it's a strong 4.2.
Helen?
Yeah, so as for kind of like time and things, I watched the first hour and then like had a day and a bit in between before I watched the second bit, and I've kind of I didn't feel as though I like you said, Liam, I kind of like watched the first hour and I was like, well, that's kind of an hour and we're sort of like know what we need to do to kind of end things, and there's another hour. Like, what is going to happen in the second hour? So yeah, that obviously plays into it. So I'm going to go 3.5 for engagement.
I'm going to go for 3.5 as well. I think the second viewing I was less engaged than I was the first time, and I think like yourself, at the first hour mark, you kind of think, well, they're at the bit now. This should be feeling like it's wrapping up, but still, then it ramps up a bit more, and you're like, I'm not sure about this, guys. But that gives us an overall score of 3.84688, which is a bit lower than I thought it was going to be going into it. Repeat viewing score a bit lower, and small screen score failed a bit there, mainly from me. Guys, let's head to Twitter. So everyone who's listening, do follow us on Twitter. We are at Flixwatcher Pod, as well as the random stuff we talk about during the weeks and stuff like that. We do give a little post asking you guys for your opinions on the films we're about to record, such as this one. We're reviewing Mitchells vs. the Machines with Liam H Dempsey from Spocklight Pod and Chris from ERR Podcast. That's Easy Riders Raging Podcast. Tell us your thoughts and your score out of 5 stars for an on-air shout-out on Flixwatcher. A few responses for this one. Liam, do you want to go lead out with this one?
So yeah, the first comment I can see is from Not Just for Kids podcast. Great podcast. 5 stars. Best film of last year and one of the most exciting animations of the past decade. And that Furby scene, genius. And he's put a gif of Amy Poehler from Parks and Recreations going, I love it.
Steve from EILFM podcast. He said 5 stars. One of my favourite animated movies in a long time.
Helen?
This one's from Lee Thomas, regular contributor. Top drawer animation, unique style, and one of the funniest films of the decade so far. 5 stars. And then he's done a dog, pig, loaf of bread emoji. Very nice. Big fan of that review there.
Chris, there's at least one more I can see.
All right. So yeah, Flix X-Raid podcast. Again, 5 stars. Said, I loved this movie and the family dynamic is amazing and super relatable.
Is it any more? That's it, isn't
I think that's it.
Thank you very much, guys, for all your lovely tweets. And finally, we let you down slightly with a score just under 4. Liam, Chris, can you tell everyone where we can find you online, and we'll say goodbye to the listeners?
Yeah, you can find me at Spocklight Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you want to keep up with my podcast, we're literally just releasing a new episode of our on-screen strand where we look at a guest appearance from a member of Star Trek alumni in an iconic other TV show. This time we're doing Patrick Stewart's guest appearance in Frasier with David Trumbull, and that is going to be fantastic. So it's just a full-on love-in on Frasier. So if you're a Frasier fan or you've ever thought, what's the fuss about Frasier? Check out that episode, and also we've got lots of other Star Trek stuff coming up as well.
Which episode was the Frasier one? Because Frasier's just come to Channel 4. Sorry, 4.
All 4. Yeah.
All
so
4,
it is season 11, episode 3. The Doctor is out.
Oh, that's miles into it. Wow.
It is. Yeah, it's the last season. But it's a genuinely. This shows you how good Frasier is, because it is a 5-star, absolute hilarious back-to-back episode. Patrick Stewart is brilliant in it. So big recommend.
And Chris?
Well, yeah, Liam says, if someone's a fan of Frasier, if they're not a fan of Frasier, I assume they've just never seen Frasier, because it was one of the all-time greats.
100%.
You can find my podcast, Easy Riders Raging Podcast, on all good podcast platforms where we do lots of classic films and classic cartoons, and also the Spielberg Pod, similarly, talk about old Spielberg films and new Spielberg films, and we have great chats.
Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us again. You guys have been on before. If you want to listen to what Chris has talked about before and Liam, just go into the pod feed, type Chris, Johnston and Liam, and you'll find the other episodes they've been on. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure. And come back again at some point.
Would always love to. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.